Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest in the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today's guest is Francis Lacoste, and he is founder over at the VPE Coach. Francis, welcome to the show.
Welcome. Thank you for having me, Adam.
So, Francis, just diving into today's topic, really getting more into the challenges of leading tech organizations and scaling. We, large tech audience that listen to our show, all business owners, entrepreneurs, and executives. So this is a great topic to bring to them. I guess just to get us kicked off here, what got you on this path? Like, what got you obsessed to helping other entrepreneurs and executives out there scale? Like, how did you start in this?
Well, this is really coming from my personal experience. I work for great companies and saw firsthand the impact of having a great engineering culture. It can have on engagement, quality of products, all of that. And through my experience, found out that actually this is what I had the most fun at, helping build these type of environments. So that's when I recently moved as a professional coach to help train CTOs, VP of engineering to become these leaders who create the culture necessary for greatness,
Now, have you always wanted to kind of go this entrepreneurial path? Was that always in you?
No, this is something.
It's scary, right? I'm like, well, it wasn't in me either, by the way. I'm just asking because I'm like, this is not easy. Go ahead. I'm just asking.
Yeah. I mean, so I'm in a way, I'm somebody who has been very fortunate to follow what was interesting to me every time. And then that always brought me to challenges that I didn't know where I would end up. I mean, the first example of that was, I actually studied in cinema, I started in cinema, film production,
Wow.
Then discovered that in the art philosophy classes, this was interesting, then went to sociology, but I was working in tech and then as a software engineer. And at some point, somebody asked me to become a team lead. I said yes, not knowing what would entail, different career. And then now it's coaching, so 25 years later. So kind of to be a coach, it meant okay, now I need to start my own business, which is great, So rising to the challenges that life throws at me.
What do you like about coaching or helping others or that relationship of coaching? What do you like about that? Because it's hard. It's hard, especially in the tech, any space, right? Entrepreneurs, dealing with entrepreneurs. What do you like about coaching?
Well, the greatest benefit is seeing the unfolding of people. It's like gardening to a certain extent. I think that my metaphor is not because I don't think the coach is a gardener, but there is something around there's things that are growing by themselves and seeing the growth of these leaders. That's really what is the most fulfilling because most of the people who are looking to coaching, I work with people. It's not like I'm not a coach who comes in because your CEO told you that you needed coaching. Those are not the type of engagement I do. So people who come to coaching are kind of self-driven, wants to improve, and working with such people is just a joy, because I'm there to support their growth and makes it easy. And then it they just can go even beyond what they were thinking. Yeah, it's the relationship also, the working. There's something intimate in coaching because you're talking with someone and you get to know them over a long time. So that is also very rewarding. It makes things very meaningful.
Yeah, I know your niche is definitely the tech space, according to what I'm reading. What are some of the challenges that some of the individuals that you coach have when they come to you? Because they're coming for something. What are they normally coming for? What are those challenges they're having or those things they want to overcome?
Well, often they don't come necessarily for a particular. I thought they would, but actually most of the time it's more. There might be a little thing, but really it's like I said, the desire to be better, to improve, and often if you're a CTO, VP of engineering, it's kind of a lonely world. You're it's not like you have a huge support network in your organization. Some people will build that externally, through networking, organizations, things like that, or coaching. And so they come, and then what they're faced with, is a lot of ambiguity, growing teams, all the people problems. And often like technical leaders are usually more about become where they're at because of their technical skills, and their technical, and then the success brings like new challenges, and then these are not technical challenges anymore. Technology, it's all we focus a lot on the technology, but most of the problems or the issues are actually there's a saying that it's never like all problems are people problems. So, and this is not what the set of skills which is not the strong suit of most technical leaders. So that's why they want to grow to become better people leaders, organizational leaders, work on their relationship with the CEO, with the exec team, build their leadership teams. Yeah, those are the types of issues that the people work on.
How does culture play a role in this? Like in this scenario, how does culture impact this?
Right. So the culture to me is one of the most important aspects of an organization. I think it's Patrick Lencioni in The Advantage, his book, which sums out a lot of his initial books. The Advantage is kind of the organization culture. And culture is, what you value, how you do things, all of that. And what I've discovered is that the culture is kind of capped by its leaders. Even though there's a lot, especially in larger organizations, you can influence culture in your teams, in your local areas, but really, at the organization at large, it will be the level of development of the leaders that will establish the baseline of the culture. So the CTOs, the VP of engineering, and the CEOs, they have the greatest impact in shaping the culture. So and the culture means how people are going to join, are they going to thrive, and the overall organization's success long term will depend on the type of culture you create.
So one of the things I've always liked about whether it's coaches, consultants, or otherwise is that a lot of times because your work, especially when you have a defined niche like you do, is that you get to see, you have a unique vantage point, because even if a CEO or team is doing really well, they're still within their, on a day-to-day, they're still within their own company, right? Maybe they go to some conferences, maybe they get some other dissemination of ideas here and there, but this is all you do. So what are some of those key attributes that you find that just make high performing teams in general work in these scenarios? What are some of those things?
Yeah, it's interesting because there's kind of a bubble effect, and often you find that, okay, here we're doing well, but you don't know, you don't have a benchmark of comparison.
Yep.
So it feels like you're doing well, but you don't know that there's more potential to reach and that sort of thing. And you're right, as coaches who have a lot of different clients and a lot of different end points, they're kind of, hey, actually, there are other things that are not on your roadmap. But to actually answer your question, I think to me, there are two pillars really to high performance team, and the two pillars are they're orthogonal. That's the geek in me. So that means that they're independent dimensions. You can execute very well on one, and that has no bearing on how you're going to execute on the other, but you actually need both. And these two are, so the one that many have, it's a clear mission. You really need to have a clear purpose for your organization. And with clear purpose, then you can have accountability. People are there to, make self-driving cars, or, a new way for customer MDs, patients to file their medical records, or whatever it is. If you're transforming health, and then people join and know that's what the company is about, and can hold each other accountable to that. This is there's a purpose. We're not there to chill out, or there's actually something, that mission. Mission matters.
Yeah.
Your slogan. So mission is super important. And the other aspect is we often call psychological safety. And this is how people are going to work together to achieve that mission. And if you have a great mission, but like no psychological safety, and basically often will result in a toxic environment where, okay, you need everybody feels like it's a death march toward the mission, then, I mean, you will get some results, but it won't be long lasting for sure. And you will miss out on a lot of potential. And if you have like a great psychological safety, great way of working, very collaborative, but there's no kind of clear mission and accountability to the mission, then you have like a great environment, but you're not going to get progress or results either. So you really need these two pillars to achieve like the conditions of high performance.
Where do you find, like, and obviously this is going to be different from, company to company, organization to organization, but where do you find sometimes people are blindsided or fall short? Like, where do you see that happen?
So often, I mean, one of the biggest stumbling blocks would be kind of paying too much attention to what others are doing, or the best practices out there. And that kind of the shortfall here is that you're kind of not paying attention to your own context and your own possibilities and greatness in your organization. You're kind of trying to copy what others are doing because, hey, this worked at Spotify. There was a couple of years ago, everybody was doing the Spotify model, but Spotify model was you don't want to copy the model, which was a point in time strategy at Spotify, because like when they published it, actually they had moved on and were not operating exactly like that, but people were kind of copying this, and so copying what others are doing without understanding the context in which it evolved, why it made sense in that context, and then like, okay, does it make sense in my context now or not? It's kind of, if you're a 30 people team, copying what Meta is doing is probably not a good idea. It's kind of, yeah.
That's funny because I always say that. Like, I'm always, when people are looking at trends or something else like that, I'm like, what? Like, so one of ours, I don't even call them competitors because this is media, whatever. But if you were to say what space we're big in, you'd say, I'd say one of our main things we're known for is podcasting. And so, like, who are the biggest ones? iHeartRadio. They have over 4,000 employees. So I'm like, so sometimes my team will bring me some things. I'm like, there's only a little over 30 of us here. Like, what are you talking about? I'm glad that's a big trend and something that they're chasing. But we don't got 4,000 employees to go chasing stuff, we don't even really know they're big enough to where we don't even really know if what they're doing is working. We just know what we see. That's it. Yeah. Like, so who knows? But I'm glad you bring that up. That is true. Like, you got to, and then even if it is working, it's still about execution. Like, who's the team that's actually executing on XYZ strategy or what they're doing, right? Like, it doesn't mean just because it's easy.
So it's context. Context is always is king. If you are able to really understand the context, then the moves come naturally because they're tied to the context. But if you look at it in the abstract, then you're military.
You might be in trouble is what you might be. Oh, that's great. How does this concept of like inner game, like how does that play into things?
I'd like to talk about the inner game. So the inner game is these are like the personal, there's the outer game, which is what we're playing, the moves we're making, how we're showing up in the organization. But for this to be effective, there's also need to be an inner game, which is kind of a mastery of our own, emotions, thoughts, those sorts of things. And the most salient example of that is that in startup, there's a lot of uncertainty, always. There's kind of what, is our market going to respond well to our product? Is what's going to happen? Is this going to work? And so a lot of part of the inner game is what's your relationship with uncertainty? That's one place it's manifest, or in conflicts, if you have if you want high performance, you need to be able to deal with conflicts because you want to draw most different opinions to get the best one going forward. And so if you have issues dealing with conflict, then this is also part of the inner game, kind of how do I react? What are my reactions when there are somebody who disagrees with me or two people disagreeing with each other? Am I still able to stay responsive and not go into reaction? So these are the aspects of the inner game, which are key to be a successful leader. It's much more how you are and your own capacity than knowing, what are the correct moves, because it's a little bit like the context. If you have a good inner game, then the moves come naturally in a way based on the situation, and because you stay in touch with the situation instead of going out into like your patterns that have been okay, this is how I react in conflict, and this is not what's appropriate here, but that's we're on autopilot basically.
It's awesome. Well, Francis, just have to say it has been great having you on the show today. I definitely explored checking out what it takes to, on some of the challenges of leading tech organizations and scaling, and from your unique vantage point as a coach. Thank you for that. That being said, if somebody's listening or watching this and they want to follow up and they want to connect with you and your team, how do they do that?
Easiest way is to connect with me on LinkedIn, Francis Lacoste on LinkedIn, the VP coach. I'm always happy to meet people through that, or they can also go to my website, thevpe.coach, and they'll have my info there.
Awesome. And for everybody listening, just so you know, we'll put that information in the show notes so that you can just click on the links and head right on over. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time with us, this is a daily show. Each and every day, we're bringing on new guests, new thought leaders, new insights. If you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, we encourage you, hit that subscribe button. We have many more mission-based individuals coming up, and we don't want you to miss a thing. So again, hit that subscribe button. And Francis, thank you again so much for coming on the show.
My pleasure, Adam. Thank you.